I'm going to be handing over to my dearest colleague, Mtila.
Look at you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been a
difficult day, though.
It's been a very, very difficult day, and the scenes that we've witnessed throughout the morning have been difficult. And I had an interesting conversation before I leave you to it with Mr. Frans Balenu, who's the former NUM General Secretary, who said that it's not just the problem of companies abandoning the mines. Many of these mines no longer have owners. You know, they come from like apartheid times, for example. So they've become a burden of the state. And the state, unfortunately, does not have the resources to rehabilitate or to do anything with them. And this is where we find ourselves at this instance.
Yeah, and there's a sense in which it feels like this is a moment of reckoning with the many, to use the analogy that was used by you know, the experts at the peak of the COVID-19 situation, that we've had many small fires burning at the same time, but now
they've culminated into
one big inferno that we must now deal with. It's a moment of reckoning. If you're listening to those people that are talking there to Nqobile Madlala there, in that short conversation, you heard so many themes. Themes about policing in this country, the quality or lack thereof in many instances around policing. You heard conversations around migration, because people will frame it in that way. If from their observation there's a trend that the people that are involved are of a particular country of origin, nationality, etc. You have migration being brought to the fore there. You have the economy, the state of the economy, what you're saying about those mines, as well as just a general sense of hold it together as a government, you know. Just because these mines have been abandoned and no one is mining anymore, what's the cause for no one being responsible for ensuring that people don't just go in there and help themselves and fuel the illicit economy, money laundering, weapons, explosives, etc., etc. It's so complex.
It's very complex, and unfortunately, because it's such a big illicit economy where I think billions are involved, there are interested parties who would rather have this thing continue, unfortunately.
All right, Ropiwa, let's continue with it. We are covering those protests. That was Ropiwa Madzena there for us, talking to us. All right, Ropiwa, I am told that I can't let you go, and I'm very happy about that. I honestly don't mind. Let's talk a bit more about the last few hours that you've been on air. This happens in Kagiso off the back of the protests we saw in Tembisa in the last few days. What's your sense of what has come out in the last few hours, particularly as it relates to Kagiso? I mean, when I woke up this morning and I heard that there's a protest in Kagiso, I honestly did not get the sense that it would escalate to this point.
Sure. So the one thing for me that's come out over this particular day, in fact, Tulas, and it relates to me more from the Tembisa protests, is that our governments or our leaders, in whether it be at a municipal, provincial or national level, are immature in a sense that they politicize everything. The protests in Tembisa, for example, after they happened, instead of listening to the needs of the community members, the violence that ensued subsequently was blamed on the ANC or whatever it was. They completely were blind to the immediate needs of the people, and that's why we saw the deterioration of that. And it's happening here as well, Tulas, because instead of addressing the immediate needs of these illegal miners who have now become very brazen, will walk around during the day and intimidate community members, that protection has not happened, and it has taken this level of violence. It has taken the rape of 8 young women to us to get people talking in the right language and not thinking about the politics, putting that aside and addressing the issues. There's another protest around crime that's been covered by Siphamandla Goge and Hammanskraal at the moment.
The ANC.
The ANC. That's another politicizing. Exactly. It was supposed to be the community of Hammanskraal who are addressing the crime issues in that area. And the ruling party, very ironic to us, the ruling party are now the ones that are at the forefront of saying we need you guys to deal better with crime in the country, you guys being them.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear. It would be interesting to hear what reports they've sought from the powers that be that control the budgets for policing and resourcing of police officers. Because let's be fair. You know, a lot of police officers are putting their bodies on the line daily in keeping communities safe. But where there is no support in terms of more resources and more training and the deployment is such that it is effective. In fact, you end up with a situation where those police officers are endangered. I believe that what we're seeing now are visuals from Manqoba Mchunu's camera, that position there. There seems to be some kind of operation around where these people that have come to be known as zamas, these illegal miners, it looks like that's around where they are operating. And earlier on, the police deploying tear gas into that mine shaft, as Manqoba was reporting there.
That's right. That is what they're doing, trying, if there are any of them still in there, Tulas, trying to smoke them out with a tear gas a little bit earlier on. Obviously, our colleagues getting affected by the tear gas, as well as some of the people that have gathered there. But it looks like, Tulas, they are making their own effort to close up the mine shafts, or the entrances to the mine shafts of those mines. Yesterday, Aviwe Mtila spoke to the Provincial Commissioner, Mr. Elias Mawela, around catching these illegal miners. And he says what makes it difficult is that they've been mining there for years.
Yes.
So they understand the terrain so well, and they've built networks underground in which to move and maneuver. So when you're trying to catch them, it's incredibly difficult because they know exactly where to go and how to go about it, and hiding when they need to hide. And that is the difficulty that we're also dealing with here. I mean, he even said that there is a tunnel that goes for about 10 kilometers from the point that they were in that the miners that were exposed to the police were able to go through that tunnel and just disappeared.
Wow. And how often, Ropiwa, have we in the last few years had instances where rivalry between these gangs of illegal miners escalates to violence, and we've had actual violence happening underground and people actually dying in these clashes between the various syndicates, various gangs of these illegal miners. And that talks to the conversation around just general law and order. If, for instance, the rape of these women in Krugersdorp last week has led to a situation where police feel that it is imperative for them to be seen to be doing something. Why was this something? Whatever it is, no matter how adequate or otherwise it is, why was it not happening all along?
Right.
Elias Mawela says we've been carrying out operations in these areas. It's just that you media have not been reporting on these operations. I doubt that if there was an operation on the scale of what we are seeing now,
that we would have
missed it.
Exactly.
And the communities, have you seen how, Ropiwa, communities are also at a point where they are holding government officials and public officials to account. That sense of decorum and saying, I'll wait for the right opportunity, that's gone. We are past that. The way that woman, on the evening when the news broke, during the ANC policy conference, when Minister Begicele went to Krugersdorp, the woman there who confronted him and said, this is what we live with every day. You can't even go to the shops to buy bread because there are these people that engage in illegal mining but also are involved in a lot of criminal activity. It's a moment of reckoning.
No, it absolutely is. And as you were speaking about the violence or the violent nature in which they engage each other, these gangs, it takes me back to a story that Nqobile Madlala did about a year or two ago, where these gangs were now murdering each other and dumping bodies in public spaces. And even then, I don't think there was as much action as we are seeing by the police. And you're absolutely correct. Whatever needed to be done, whether it be inadequate or adequate, why is it only happening now? That is the big question.
Part of what frustrates me, Ropiwa, as we watch these visuals from the sky, that's a view from the helicopter that's flying over Kagiso, as our teams on the ground are showing you and bringing you updates from there. Part of what frustrates me is this whole syndrome around diagnosing issues for a long time before we get to prescribing and actually implementing solutions. It takes us long to get around from diagnosing what is the problem.
Yes.
I believe we can go to Nqobile Madlala now to hear from her. Nqobile, locate yourself for us and just tell us what you are seeing where you are at the moment.
We're still in Kagiso, of course, with some of the community members, just still highlighting the issues that they are faced with in this area. Of course, we're seeing more police manpower. If you see behind me, those are two Inyalas. We're seeing more police manpower on the ground. We know, and what we heard from Manqoba, who's my colleague just across, that people were being tear gassed. But what we also see is the SA police at the top just hovering to check what is happening on the ground. But what we're also seeing more is security guards, companies that are also in here just assisting. We heard earlier on some of those security guards speaking to us, saying that they're assisting the community in highlighting and getting rid of these issues that they are worried about. And so I want to bring in some of the community members la. Mama, ngiyanibona ngaphandle njengamanje yini nibeka la ngaphandle?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ngizokubambela mama.
Okay. Nna ke batla go tsa pekicele kwa leng ko teng. Gore ya ka ba mmitsa situation e le yana gore a reng if o le motswadi ngwana go moshimane a latlhege ka montlu o sa itse gore o ko kae a e sekolong a o tsebe gore kwa leng wa ja gore go tsagala a nkile ke bo zamazama ba mepisa mokoti ka mo ba mo kidnapile gore ena ha e tlhagetse ena o tlo fila jwang o tlo ikutlwa yang le ba ditopo tse topiwa mo Soul City mo tsa banyana le bana ba sekolo last ba krile ngwana ko mafais ba tla ba kra o monggape ngwanyana ba re o nna tshaba mo mokhukhung wa ge ba kopana le ene ba mo etsa the same ba mo reipa ba mo latlhela mo Friday night Saturday o dutse mo le for the whole day le bosigo le sontaga bosigo le o kregile ka mantaga and Aisha pass
manje banazi ngani ukuthi amazama enza lezi
bona Aisha pass 6 go last thunya fela mo go tshaba le go a ko ntle ka sitse le ko ntle go last thunya bullet ka go shapu ikela ko dustbin or o ya ko gate
manje uma ufuna ukubona kwenzakalani
mapodisa ba re thuse dilo tse di etsagalang kambo aba ntse ba sotho ba ka ofela ga bona le bone ba biditse maZimbabwe ba ya pan le bona ba ntshe ka ofela ba clean me mine e ba ikwale o sa tlhole go ba le mine o epiwa mo or go tsa ene re be free re khona tsa mo strateng really free go seng o Robert 5 o'clock motho msadi wa la mo strateng ba ba tshwara linkunzi and ba bereka go se maloba mo ba krile stop ka kona to 6 mushimana ba thona ikela mmereko ba mnkela nthotsa ga mazama ka di 2 ba muthunya 3 bullet ba mutopile mo le mo escape ke bophelo bo boyambo re tsaba le go tswela ko ntle ha re khone go a ko ntle ba berekisa bucket a re 5 o'clock ba berekela mo di bucketeng a ba I ko ntle o whether on tate or o mme tsontse o ithuse ka mogare ga bucket o tsaba go a ko ntle ke bophelo o tsaba zama
All right, Mama. Again, Mama, Mama, just explaining some of the things that you are faced with. That you are faced with. When Mama ufunu uguti yini ufunu kuibona yenzakala namhlanje.
None took about la Hobona Yetzakala Honano. Okay, fine, these people we don't deny to stay with them. Only if they came in this country legally so. And then at the same time they must Lidi scrap ya titsenane tseba khaulang di tshipi tsa di trainer ake le tsa metlagas re shota ka metlagas because of ba khauts batho ba reduce gona re di appliances di a cha montlung di felletsa di tshitsele di ntlu ga re thusiwe. So that's our main problem. The other thing happened. Why? Because we are overpopulated. If ever these people they came legally, so why can they not expand their infrastructures? But if ever they didn't come legally, why can they take them back? They must stop saying that is xenophobia. So if ever they are killing us, it's not xenophobia. Thank you.
All right, Mama. I want to hear you, Mama. Do you also feel that your place is now unsafe? Do you also feel that Awuko safe?
ke gore mo solositse go diriweng dilo tse e leng gore di ya ka molao. Government ya rona ya re faila. Every time ga re lla nna complain ya ka ke complain ke super government ya rona ka re government ya rona ga e be se yona ya dumelela batho ba tswang kontle ba sa tle ka molao ka mo dilo tse tsohle di ka be di se ka di nna teng. Samathom wena mo South Africa ga o ka tsamaya wa ya kwa lefaseng la go bona dilo tse ba di dirang ka mo wena o ka se wa yo di dira ka kwa. Sa bobedi wena mo South Africa ntho engwe le engwe o e etsang o gatisa monwana ga o ilwetsa ID bona ga gona mo ba gatisa monwana teng ga ba tloga mo wena mo South Africa ga o sintse within 2 hours wa tholwa ka baka la monwana wa gago yena motholo wa zama a ke tsore ke zama o re keng as long as a tlile sena passport a ke ra gona go agatisa monwana ke ka baka lang rona ma South Africa re shwela batho ba ka ntle ka baka la menwana ya rena gona no dilo tse di etsagalago mo ga e se gore government ya rona ga di bone government ya rona e letetse go bona dilo ga di setse di senyegile go senyegile west ke gona e emang ga e ka be go swa ka go direga dilo tse go west rand go west gabe government ya rona gona nong e re tlogela go bane ke nako ka re ntse re lla re ba bitsa re ba re bolaela batho
manje mama ufuna ukubona kwenzakalani
ntho e ke ikopang ke batlang go bona e diragala go gore ga ba go buele mo la tabeng ya gore go berekisiwe ID go bane rona re berekisa monwana kere so ga batla ba tlo checka gore na ke mangana leng ID ke manga senang ID then o senang ID ga tsamaye gore rona rena leng di ID re gone go itsheba re gone go bona gore rona ba di ID mere kwa rona re bereka eng gore re gone go boela ko nakong ye le re neng re phela bontle ka yona ka re gona no nga re sa gona bo phela bontle ke ba ka la batho ba re sa ba itseng ene ga ba fihla ba seng so ga ba kene evenly no nane ke kopa gore ga ba kene door to door jwale ka maburu a la gale ba go ba kena ba tsama bantsha ba re ID tompas bantsha batho so ga ba tsene ba yetse ntwe ba tle ba bone gore na ga go setse rona re leng ba dudi ba mo Soul City or South Africa manyala di rega nga tlofela di rega na ke a leboga
siyabonga kakhulu mama. Well, so those are very strong words coming from the ladies. As you can see, they're quite mature, so they've been in the place for quite some time. I think it's very clear what they're saying. I mean, the lady just explaining that what they want now is that they want people to have fingerprints, that the people that live here that are illegally, they're asking that the departments come door to door and find out who are these people and make sure that they're registered. They're crying over the fact that when they do crime, they can be seen and can be found, but some of the people that live here illegally cannot be found. But as well as the fact that the infrastructure has been broken down, they're crying over the fact that lights are a simple thing that one must have, but they don't have. There's water issues. They're talking about electricity, water issues, which are basic needs that they don't have. And what they want now is that the government also assist in that, but they want the police to work with them continuously. And they are asking for the police to be visible on the ground to assist with the crime that is happening in this area. But what they're also speaking about is that these holes that are open and the mine dumps, they want them to be closed, and they're asking that the government also intervene. And it mustn't happen at a time when such things are happening on the ground, but rather if their government can be rather proactive and assist them in these issues. Well, that's basically sentiments that are coming out of here. We know that the community continues to sit here. We have heard from the community leaders telling us that there's going to be a meeting in the afternoon and they will tell us what is the way forward in terms of tomorrow. But they are adamant that they are going to do this by themselves, with or without the police.
Sure. All right, Nqobile, let's leave it there for now. We will continue to touch base with you throughout the afternoon into the evening. That's eNCA's Nqobile Madlala out in Kagiso, part of our team that's covering these protests that have been playing out in the last few minutes.